This is the 100 Club. Welcome once again. We're here to talk some cricket as we approach what I reckon is the midway point of the T20 World Cup. I'm stood at second slip, Rich just inside at first slip, and Oli a bit too close at short leg. How are you doing? You could move further away from the camera though.
I could move back, but I'm getting close. Making sure the viewers know I'm here. Bit of pressure.
Yeah, all right.
Breathing.
Okay. Well, you got your hair helmet on. Let's talk some cricket. Let's talk some cricket to our prospective batter who is in place. Go on,
a brave man fielding at short leg to Joss Butler at the minute.
Yeah. Well, neat segue. Should we talk about Group 1?
Go on.
Okay. Group 1. Wow. Okay. So T20 World Cup this week, I think, has been fantastic. Has really kicked into life. And there's the Group 1 table. What do we think is going on with England at the top there? Rich?
No one likes a gloating England fan, so I'll shut up right now.
Join us next week when it's all gone wrong.
Okay. Let's put it in some more perspective. So England top, clearly. South Africa currently on second on 4 points. Australia 4 points as well, but with a dramatically weaker net run rate, although they did beat clearly the South Africans. Sri Lanka still there, 2 points. West Indies 2 points. Bangladesh no points. Let's talk about England a bit more. Are they playing outrageously good cricket, or have they just not faced really good opposition yet? Oli, what do you think?
Well, I think they're playing really well. Right? I don't think we can argue with that. They're almost playing a bit too well at the moment because they haven't really had to have a pressure chase. So I'd worry a little bit that they might go into the latter stages undercooked as it stands.
Yeah. So this week, since we last were on, we've clearly, as I say, England have clearly beaten Bangladesh by 8 wickets. And then absolutely smashed Australia, 126 for 2 in chasing 125 all out. Both occasions, they've played to their preferred match tactic, winning the toss, chasing, and absolutely had the bowlers set them up on a plate. What happens? Do we need to lose a toss? Would that help us more, Rich?
Yeah, potentially so. I mean, through this tournament has been unusual in that we have seen, 90% of teams chasing, winning the games. I think there's only been a handful of teams batting first and winning.
3 games.
3 games out so far, and even more concentrated since we've got into the Super 12s phase. And I think Owen Morgan was quoted before the Australia game saying, the statistics say that you're better off chasing. Actually, the statistics don't say that. Over the last 5 or 6 years, actually, it's been more or less 50-50. Bat first, second first. But obviously something unusual in this tournament, whether it's the dew factor, whether it's the fact that the pitches vary so much between the 3 venues, or whether the fact there's this variation between the fresh pitches versus the used pitches, it just seems very difficult to bat first and get a sense of what a decent score is. Yeah,
so I think I'm not worried about England at the moment. I think I agree with all your points there. I do think the teams are going to adapt. I think they are adapting. We're seeing closer games the further into the tournament we go. But I'm not worried about England. I think we've seen all facets of their game kind of clicking. And I think justifying to a degree their status as the top T20 team in the world. And so, they're looking good for qualification. And for me, it's a case of concentrating now as they go forward. I mean, what else do you want to see from them? Oli, anything else?
I do wonder, at some point they're going to have to try and chase down a significant score. You'd imagine you can't go through the tournament and win every toss. So you'd have thought, given the way that England like to play, which is to chase, that if you're the opposition captain and you do win a toss, you're going to try and put them in and see if you can kind of you're going to put yourself in and you're going to see if you can have them under a bit more pressure. So I don't know. I just wonder if they need a tougher game just to make sure that they're really ready. Because I think they kind of feel like they're going to go through at this point.
Yeah, but I think that's fair.
But do they just is there going to be a game that really makes sure that they're ready? Yeah. It's got to be a tougher game when they get to the semis or perhaps the final.
I think the challenge is that for other sides looking at England, it was a low total they were chasing against Australia, but still the bowling lineup was strong in terms of Mitchell Starc, Josh Hazlewood. These are top level performers. But you look at Josh Buttler, Jason Roy, the array of shots they have, and it sort of goes all the way through the batting order. How do you attack them? If you attack the stumps, they launch you over long on. If you go wide York or outside, they've got the power to go through extra, even aerial for extra. You try and put it into the pitch, take pace off, and they just cross bat you, through mid wicket for six. It's so difficult to bowl to these batters at the minute in the form they're in.
Yeah, and I think teams that have struggled with the bat, have been when they've lost a hatful of wickets in the power play, and so far, England have not done that. So I guess, is anyone going to be able to find any weaknesses in the, set some plans, get some matchups, for the England top order, and try and get the middle order in early? I don't, so far, kind of no one's managed to do that to them, have they?
Well, exactly, and they've not got into the 5th, 6th, 7th wicket partnerships yet, but they do bat a long way down. Perhaps the one team that they've got left in the group stages who might give them a real challenge at the moment is, of course, South Africa. Now, if you want to talk about teams in World Cups who are famous for choking, almost, you might talk about South Africans, but they appear to be bucking the trend somewhat at the moment. And in particular, yesterday, in what I thought was perhaps one of the better games of the tournament so far, David Miller comes in and rescues the South Africans against Sri Lanka because they were right against it, and that puts them up into second. So, is there something there with the South Africans that we haven't seen before? Are they proving their selection, their critics wrong? What do you think, Rich?
Difficult. I mean, any team that leaves Faf du Plessis and AB de Villiers out of their squad are always going to be, the targets for criticism if it doesn't go to plan. I've always liked their bowling. Tabré Shamsi has been one of the best spinners in the world for the last 2 years. Andre Nortje and Kagiso Rabada were exceptional for Delhi Capitals. As a pair of quicks up top, as good as it gets. I would like to have a moment in praise of Temba Bavuma this week. I think he's had an incredibly difficult week off the field, with the controversy over Quinton de Kock, being left out of the team, coming back into the team over, those issues. But I also think that Bavuma actually played quite a critical knock against Sri Lanka in that it's 46 or 46 balls, so it's had to run a ball. But he anchored that chase and he provided that platform because David Miller has not had a lot of long innings. We know the power that David Miller has. He can come in, he can play those cameos, but he's not necessarily going to do it for a 70, 80, etc.
Yeah.
So I think Bavuma's innings really set him up for that. He was not in good form. He was not timing it, but he stuck it out. It was a gutsy innings. I thought he was gutsy the week, off the field in terms of how he faced up to the media. And I like the way he leads the team, often wearing 4 or 5 hats. So, bit of praise for Temba Bavuma for me.
Yeah. What did we make of the de Kock incident? It seemed very strange in the way that they handled it. I just can't believe that they hadn't had a conversation sort of before the morning of the game, whenever it was that he pulled out.
Ultimately, for me, I think I would like to think the best of people. It's extremely suspicious, but at the same time, we don't know what's happened there. And I'd rather not jump to conclusions where the evidence is always going to be incomplete. So let him prove his stance on the pitch. He's going to take the knee from now on. He's going to, he is part of a team that is by its genesis across racial lines. So let's see them as a team now and hope that everything that we suspect is not the case in that sense.
Yeah, my comment on that would be one would be that Kieran Pollard, long-term teammate at the Mumbai Indians of Quinton de Kock, came out after and said, "Well, this is sort of news to me. Didn't realise these allegations being levelled at Quinton is not the guy I know." Yeah. We have to remember that these guys, they're superstars. They're on the world screen. They're also relatively young men. They can make mistakes. They can reassess their situation. They can ask for forgiveness and carry on. So in this case, Quinton de Kock has, decided that he's going to take a knee for the rest of the tournament. He's decided he wants to be part of this South African team. So, let's move forward.
Absolutely. I'm with that. Let's move forward with this video, if we may. And let's talk about the Australians, who I think have underperformed so far, albeit they beat the South Africans. Are they, in their design, just unsuited to T20? We talked about it in the squad they picked as a whole. Too many multi-format players? Too many of the old guard? And not playing some of their more talented young guns? Or just unlucky? What do you think about the current Australia outfit and how they're approaching this tournament? Rich, have a go.
I wouldn't say unsuited to T20 because you look at that side 1 to 11, and most of them have major franchise experience, either IPL or sort of in England. I mean, obviously, Big Bash as well. Who's knocking on the door? Who should be in the team? I think you'd have to ask sort of a more seasoned Australia watcher to me. But I don't know. Mate, for me, the batting order looks a little bit muddled. Perhaps they're too reliant on Finch and Warner at the top. Maybe they could look to somebody like Josh Inglis to come in to give them a bit more explosive firepower at the very top of the innings. But otherwise, I mean, they're very talented players from 1 to 11.
But for all the talent, you watch that game against England and their batting order performed dreadfully. They just threw their wickets away in a lot of cases. Someone like Steve Smith with that shot, that is not smart cricket from one of the the premium players in the game. I mean, Ollie, have you got any defence for Australia?
No, I mean, on paper they should. That batting lineup should be getting a lot more than it did. So yeah, I guess the question then comes down to, I suppose, this sort of, do they know what brand of cricket they want to play? Have they got a plan? It just doesn't. Their shot selection just makes you think that they're just a bit muddled in their thinking somehow.
But this is what I mean about, are they suited to T20?
Are they trying to rotate the strike? I don't know. I don't know how they were trying to play, and they just didn't. At no point did they seem to get any momentum in the game.
So I'll throw it back to you there, Tom. I mean, there's a couple of players. I mentioned Inglis. Andrew Tye is a fantastic T20 bowler who's had success. Who's not in the side at the minute. But who's not there? Who would you have in that side that's not in that 11? Who are they not picking?
Well, I think Inglis is the classic example that's being thrown out there right now. But they pulled Ashton Agar out of that match because they wanted a fifth bowling option. It didn't look balanced at all because then, as soon as they lost those wickets, David Warner had a good game, got back into form, but there was no premise that he was going to have a great tournament from his form coming into the tournament. I think you just find some young players out there. I mean, names is difficult. I'll give you that. I mean, it is difficult, but they've got to be out there. This is Australia. They've got plenty of players.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that it's different in terms of batting 1 versus 5 or 6, but the Aussies have thrown David Warner into the tournament, having a relatively poor IPL behind him. England have thrown Owen Morgan in the same situation. England haven't been exposed because the top orders have done so well in the first 3 games. But you could have a situation where we could be looking back after 3 games and saying, what the hell will England doing playing Morgan in the first 3 games when he's got 3, 4, 5 in those matches? So it is so situation dependent, I would say.
And to be fair, Australia is still very capable of qualifying from this group. It only takes the results to pan out that way. So there is another couple of teams still in this group 1. That is Sri Lanka and West Indies still in with a shout. I think Bangladesh probably sailed now, but the West Indies are the most interesting in the way that they, again, a team with a very fixed kind of T20 philosophy, the way they approach the game. Have they found their mojo? Because they got pretty well beaten by England and then South Africa. Absolutely exposed the sort of the big power hitting batting order. Then come back against Bangladesh, and they put in Roston Chase, who acts as a spine. One of those batting performances that I think they've been missing, and they come out and they win that game pretty well. Although by only 3 runs in a bit of a thriller. What do we think of the West Indies? Can they still come through on this tournament?
Yeah, of course they can. I mean, the talent in that side is not to be dismissed. I mean, it was an interesting game against Bangladesh, and I think the Bangladeshis would actually be a little bit disappointed that they didn't see it home. Linton Das was going pretty well. He nails one off the penultimate ball off the 19th over, and most fielders in the world, that's 6, but Jason Holder 6 for 8 can reach above his head, pull that one in, it's a catch, and suddenly it's 13 needed off the last over rather than 7 and a set batter there. Nicholas Pooran played well in that innings, but you're right. Roston Chase is that kind of cricketer that we've all played amateur cricket. That that kind of player who's brings more to the side necessary than his individual skill, because he just plugs in that gap. He's a right-hander. He runs incredibly hard. He's adding twos to some of those big hitters at the top who don't necessarily run as hard as they should do. Very useful off spin, decent in the field. Just seems like good around the group. So I think he is a very valuable player. And then it makes more sense when Gale's up top, because I just don't think Gale's a number 3. I don't know about you, Ollie.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna play Gale, and I think there are question marks about this stage in Gale's career, should he be playing Gale? But if you're gonna play him, might as well send him out up top in the in the power play. Just if he comes off, then then you're in the box seat. But you probably you almost haven't lost anything if he just goes from ball 1.
Well, I think we've been saying it for some time actually about Roston Chase and Chris Gale's position on that team. So pat yourselves on the back, lads. You've done all right. Okay, let's move on from Group 1. Let's have a think about Group 2. Anything controversial going on in Group 2? Let's have a look at that table. Wow. I mean, Pakistan flying on 6 points. Afghanistan, after 3 games, on 4 points. New Zealand up to 2 points now with their win over India today. Namibia beating Scotland on 2 points. India yet to score a win after 2 games. And then Scotland, unfortunately, also down the bottom. The group
when is the big wooden spoon game at the bottom?
Don't even start. Well, this is, I suppose, the big question. Is it curtains for India? Are they heading for elimination on the basis of today's result against New Zealand? Ollie?
I mean, it's hard to see when you look at that table how they're going to get through it now. Are they going to be able to put together the string of results that they need?
Okay, well, so they've got Afghanistan, Namibia, Scotland to play.
So here's how I think it happens.
Okay.
I think Pakistan, their last 2 games against Namibia and Scotland, so they win those 2. They top the group on 10 points. Yeah. That creates then a mini league between Afghanistan, New Zealand, and India. India need to beat Afghanistan and hope that Afghanistan can do a job against New Zealand, at which point then it more or less comes down to who can hammer Namibia and Scotland the most, which Afghanistan have already
are in the box seat.
They're on the box seat. But I could see maybe Dubai or Abu Dhabi, India batting first against Scotland and getting 250, that kind of thing. So I think that's their pathway. Tricky. Unlikely, but I think that's what has to happen for them to get through.
Can you go out and intentionally set yourself saying, right, we're going to go out and we're going to try and get more than 200?
Yeah,
I don't know. That the way that India's been playing with, they've pretty much holed out on the boundary, throughout, to today's game. And they're not just going to do more of the same. They could end up, they could end up backing themselves into trouble if they're trying to chase, sort of unicorn scores.
Yeah, well, look at it. I mean, Afghanistan beat Scotland by 130 runs.
Yeah.
They've got a net run rate of over 3. Realistically, is anyone going to beat Scotland like that again?
I don't think you're going to be able to put. I don't think you're going to be able to make up such a difference as as that Afghanistan game. Whether you can, I don't know. Whether you can do it over the 2 games. You've got Namibia as well. It's possible, but I think Afghanistan are really in the box seat. For me, the Afghanistan New Zealand game is now kind of probably the shootout for.
Well, this is okay
for the second place.
So let's put it that way. So I mean, I'll put the remaining headlines up there. But if I look at the third one. Then New Zealand on course to qualify. If they are favourites against Afghanistan, then they have to be favourites to come second in the group, right?
Yeah. If they beat Afghanistan, they're through.
Yeah.
Okay. But as you say, Afghanistan are ready to pull an upset.
If Afghanistan do, I think Afghanistan are through because of the net run rate. So, for me, that's a huge game, those two.
Absolutely. And, okay, the second headline there, is that a fair point? Are Pakistan tournament favourites based on the fact that you're saying, Rich, they're going to score 10 points in the group stage?
Hard to say, because I really don't want to say that England are the favourites. But after the first 3 games, I think you have to say England are the favourites.
Are we going to go out on a limb and say that those two teams are looking quite good?
Yeah.
Well, I think we could say they're qualifying. I don't think that's either analysis, useful, or interesting.
I think
so it fit right in on our podcast.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What I will say is that I think that Pakistan, that game against Afghanistan in Dubai a few days ago, was the classic game that Pakistan would lose. Having just gone off, the euphoria, they've had 2 wins. They beat India, they beat New Zealand. They come up against Afghanistan. And, they get set a relatively modest total of 147, and then they mess it up, and suddenly it's 2 wins and a loss and everyone's down in the dumps again. And then Asif Ali in his magic wand come out to bat and just smear it, mostly into the desert sky. Yep. 25 off 7, including, 24 off and over. He just said, he afterwards, he just said he fancied it. He said, it's a shorter boundary this end. Yeah. I'm going to go after it. And he did it.
This provides a nicer side at this point. So players or plays of the week so far. Maybe Asif Ali is up there. Any other nominations you want to throw out, or some high fives for things you've seen this week in terms of plays? I'll throw one. How about Ruben Trumpelmann ending a game in 1 over, essentially, against Scotland? After the first over, 3 for 2. What a great over that was. And what a great win that was for Namibia.
That was a great scorecard, wasn't it?
Oh, horrible for Scotland.
Yeah, Olympic rings, wasn't it?
It was 5 gold rings.
Because there were quite a few ducks in the game before that. How many ducks have they had this?
Yeah, I know.
I've seen so many ducks.
So for the Scotland team really enjoyed Oman, where actually playing cross-batted, kind of sloggy kind of shots really quite paid off for them. The UAE has not worked for that style. They're going to have to play a lot straighter, I'm afraid.
I've quite enjoyed how, given how incredible fielding has been in the last few years, especially in T20 cricket, there's been some astounding drops.
The prize today.
There's been some good ones today. I forget the fielder's name who did it, but there was a chap that was at short extra cover, absolute spooned up to it, managed to put it down in 4 installments. You were telling me,
it was
horrendous.
Friend of the 100 Club, Adam Mills. Looked good with ball in hand, didn't he today? But
down at 5 leg. That was
and one
Soddy.
Yeah. And one last shout out for Hasaranga, who got a hat trick this week.
He did,
will be across 2 overs, but I count that one. It was a good one.
I'm a purist. I don't count that.
Okay, all right. Anyway, well done to you, Hasaranga. I enjoyed it. Okay, let's have a look forward if we can.
I do have to say one thing.
Go on.
Before we go on, I'm going to go back to one of our videos from about a few months ago and say I was wrong. I was wrong when we talked about
it's going to be mouthy, sure.
The rule in the 100 where the new batter is on strike regardless of whether they crossed or not. And I forget the game. It was a few weeks ago in the T20 World Cup, but it was sort of last over drama, and of course, a batter smears out of the air, and then they're back on strike. The guy who's well set because the other guys hit it. I think that I'd like to see that rule adopted throughout one-day cricket. That the new batter is on strike.
What a reverse!
Good Lord. Put a time stamp on it, people. Okay, let's look forward to the games coming up over the next few days. Let's have a look at Group 1 first. I've gone out as far as Thursday. England Sri Lanka tomorrow is the only game tomorrow. I think we we would all say England probably should be winning that game. Which is the pick of those games for you, Ollie, in terms of what you're looking forward to in Group 1 this week? Which one matters?
Well, I'm looking down to the West Indies game because I think it'll be good for the tournament if we see a bit of that West Indies that I think we're expecting to see. Probably considered by among the favourites by a lot of people, and we haven't really seen them sort of really go for it. I think that could be a good game if they sort of spark into life and they're like, right, West Indies are back in this tournament. So I think that could be a good one. Yeah,
Rich, what about for you? Which one are you looking forward to that group?
I think the nice thing is that they're all very meaningful games. That's the important point. Is I think Australia-Bangladesh is going to be an interesting one because Bangladesh have obviously lost 3, but they've been in, except for they got hammered by England, but they've been the other 2 games. Australia were over there a few months previously, didn't take their stronger side, got beaten in the series. I think that'll be an important one for bragging rights for Bangladesh will be targeting that one to get a win against the Aussies in a major tournament.
Absolutely. And so on the timings for these as well, that's in GMT. So please add or remove time as required for your own time zones. Group 2, 3 games up to Thursday. And they're a little bit behind Group 2, but surely India-Afghanistan is the pick of those ones. Wednesday, 1400 UK time. Do Afghanistan have the chance to really cause what I would call seismic shocks in the world of cricket on Wednesday? Rich?
I think it's a testament to how far Afghanistan have come that I don't think it would be a seismic shock in T20 format. I think they're a side who are built for T20 cricket. They have power up top. They have some decent, quick bowling. They have exceptional spinners. Mujib, Rashid. Rashid Khan is perhaps a little bit spit in the doghouse still, it seems, for giving up the captaincy. He's batting at number 9. He's barely got out there. He came on the 11th over the other day against Pakistan and had an amazing duel with Babar Azam. Today, they were just, he was just way too good for the Namibians. They had absolutely no idea how to play him. I don't think necessarily Afghanistan come into that as massive underdogs. I think that's obviously India the favourites, and if India play well, they win. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Afghanistan to a shock. And the other thing I'd like to say about the Afghans is I quite like the fact they have a contrarian approach. Everyone else is wait for the dew, that's bowl first, chase, etc. The Afghans are no, bat first, put a strangle on with our spinners. That's how we win.
Absolutely. Go on, Ollie.
Right. So, I wonder. And I don't. You're the statistician, Rich. Is it easier to get a good net run rate batting first, make a score, bowl the opposition out, going for a trying to chase down a big score? Because if you bowl a side out, then it makes that does make a difference if you've got bowl them out with overs to spare. So I wonder if other teams are going to have to try and follow that model. Like we're going to have to try and get our net run rate up here and bat first.
Put something big on the card.
Because you said it feels like only really Afghanistan have adopted that tactic, and so far it's going for them. It very nearly came off against Pakistan. So they could have been. We could have been talking about Pakistan. Being in the mix. Trying to get their net run rate up, and Afghanistan sat top.
So I will give the last word of this podcast, and I agree with you, Ollie. You're absolutely right. If you want net run rate, I think bat first is a good way of doing it. I will give the last word of the podcast, though, to Afghanistan, actually, and with voters' thanks to Ashgar Afghan.
We've got a special guest about to come. I'm about to join.
Asghar Afghan, everyone. No, I just want to say, I think it's really sad. He's retiring as of effective this morning. He said after the game. Brilliant servant of the game. Who knows where Afghan cricket is going, but it's good stuff. And I think we're grateful for people who bring cricket on, and he's definitely one of those individuals. So I think thumb up to him. Afghanistan definitely playing the most entertaining cricket of the tournament so far. I think we can agree that one as well, maybe. Yeah. Go on, Rich. Have the last word.
No. I just want to agree with that. I think that he's not desperately old. I mean, he's only 33. He said he wanted to retire because he wants to bring younger players through. It's a country that has not had the most pleasant recent history, but I think one of the rare bright spots is sort of their emergence as a power in cricket. So all the best, and he's a major part of that. So fair play to him. It was lovely to see him carried off the field today. Lots of non-regulation Taliban haircuts amongst that team. So all fair play to them.
On that note,
I'm not sure how the Taliban feel about blonde highlights.
I think we'll see how they get on against India on Wednesday, and maybe they'll be okay. Gents, a beautiful effort. Thank you very much for joining us. If you've enjoyed our content, let us know. If you didn't enjoy it, say why in the comments down below. It's been a lot of fun. No, come on.
You enjoy it, keep yourself to yourself.
All right, okay. Or get a new hobby, either way.
Yeah.
If you made it all the way through.
Yeah. What are we doing at this point in the podcast? Just cricket on. Go and watch them.
Yeah. On that note, I'm off to watch some cricket. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you next time on the 100 Club.
Bye.